Hi, I'm Rob Vanstone, I believe, and welcome to the 22nd mark? 22nd, isn't it? Leader Post Rider Rumblings video podcast. We're off to a great start. I've got gravel in my throat. That was the Leader Post Philharmonic Orchestra playing, what's the name of the theme song, Mark? What was that called?
All-Star.
All-Star. Ooh.
Oh, aptly named.
Hey. Aptly named. Sounds like should be beginning a newscast or something. Anyway, Murray McCormick is here.
Speaking of All-Stars.
And the great George Yanitsos of Four Seasons Sports Palace fame.
Yes, I'm trying to move up on your list of favorite Greeks. I know Chrysoulas number one. I'm trying to leapfrog Costa Maragos here. So it's a pleasure to be here, gentlemen. Happy Thanksgiving, and hey, how excited, that the Riders get a big win and they clinch a playoff game. So we're here and we're very happy, that's for sure.
10-5. It sure didn't seem likely when they were struggling early in the season. Quite a difference from the aftermath of one Edmonton game, that of August 2nd, to the other Edmonton game, that of this past weekend. Murr, what's happened to this football team between Edmonton games?
For some reason, when we had to do post-media picks, I picked the Riders 13-5 in a home playoff game. So I'm going to let that lay there and let people know that maybe I do know what I'm talking about sometimes. Maybe not. But what's happened to them is, I think it's two key factors, and it's the addition of Zach Clares coming back from injury since that time and getting more and more comfortable, and the subtraction of Duran Carter. There we go. Another mention. Get old Duran Carter. Somehow the Duran Carter, and I know we talk about it many, many times. We don't know why it was a negative thing, what he was doing in there, but the subtraction of Duran Carter and the stepping up of Shaq Evans, who was the guy predicted to fill in.
Who still hasn't caught a touchdown pass.
No, it's kind of
so crazy. Has it really been that meaningful?
Well, he's got 665 yards. What's Carter got?
Joey Walters had that in a month.
I know. Yeah, the wide receivers have been kind of non-productive for sure. But he's got the longest catch of the year for the Riders, I think 52 yards, one of the longer ones. He's averaging like 15.5 yards per catch, so he's making the big catches. He's just not scoring touchdowns. And what do you think's going to happen? You and I going to grow hair, or the Riders wide receivers going to get a touchdown?
That's pretty much a lost cause.
Yeah,
George,
and for me too.
Save the program.
No, you know what I like about absolutely, I agree 100% with what Murray said.
Why?
Well, well, first and foremost, we talk about the two things, but obviously we have to mention the defense. The defense is outstanding, and perhaps, and we know that it's been very good all year. But going 7-1 here, a lot of times. We've talked in the past about how important it is for the Riders to get into the playoffs, and they can sneak in, they can finish fourth, they can win a semifinal, maybe win a final. I've always been on the mindset that these next three games in this whole 7-1 streak, I've always said that this team, since 13, and then maybe even before that, needed to learn how to win, consistently and have that faith. I was talking with Murray a little bit earlier, and it was like, as a Rider fan, I would go through all these scenarios and I would say, how are they going to lose? They scored too early. Willie, why didn't you go down out on the 1 yard line? And we would have ran out the clock. But then I would have thought we would have got stuffed on 3 times to try and get into the end zone. Yeah. So as a Rider fan, my DNA is programmed to say, how are we going to lose? And these last games, I sit there and I go, our coaching staff are going to make adjustments at halftime. Somehow we're going to find a way. Our field goal kicker is going to kick a 57-yarder, or Willie is going to get another second, pick six. So the confidence this team has that they're never out, and I think it's because our defense will keep us in there. We have outstanding special teams, and a lot of confidence in Zach, and I like our running game, and I think it's a little bit. I think our receivers, hopefully the president comes back and they're young. And these next three games are going to be certainly, and the playoffs are certainly going to be where we're going to need them. And hopefully, again, do enough that the Riders keep going.
It's a different mindset. I mean, last year the Riders made the playoffs. They won 10 games, but they went through the East. And I didn't sense a real anticipatory mindset going into the playoffs. They were there. It was nice. It was progress. But I don't think anybody was expecting the team to be as close as it was one play as it turned out to a Grey Cup. The anticipation built through the playoffs. I sense, even with 3 games remaining before the playoffs, that people are really wondering, can this team do it? The Calgary Stampeders barely got by Montreal. The Riders are solidly in second place. The East is a bunch of flotsam. What can this team do?
Well, I think first off, it's going to be a home playoff game. I think we can almost, that's pretty well assured, close to assured.
So good. Can you write a supplement for it?
Sure, yeah, I guess I forgot
I'm
about
assigning it now.
So
wait a minute. Not just a supplement, but it's going to be, if we believe in good things that happen for Riders on semifinal games, it's going to be on Sunday, November 11th. That's when the Western semifinal is. And so, if you think back to years ago, a big win against Calgary
2007.
on 2007.
November 11th.
So that's a good omen. I like that. We'll take that.
They still have a tough schedule ahead of them.
They do.
I can't say it's for any stretch like Calgary, Winnipeg, and BC, and all 3 teams, except for Calgary barely getting by Montreal. But
And
then
2 of the games on the road.
2 of the games on the road, but they're in the West.
But they've got a good
helps.
record on the road, too.
So, yeah, which is funny. So, but I think the Riders barely got by Montreal, too. So maybe there's something to be said there that Montreal's not as bad as we think it is. Sorry.
Can we start this program? This is that part
But it is.
This is the 23rd edition of Leader Post.
But I couldn't believe that stat. Bo Levi's first victory in Montreal. That there's got to be something to say about visiting teams, visiting that city, enjoying all Montreal has to offer, and playing usually that 11 a.m. start. It's
But
an
that's when
advantage
teams
to them.
practice. What's the
Yeah,
difference?
no, it just seems different. Your whole body seems out of whack in Montreal. Like you wake up at 7 o'clock their time and you go, oh, geez, it's only 5 in Regina a.m. Why am I getting up this early? Just somehow your body gets thrown out of whack. And it doesn't happen in Toronto as much. It just seems Montreal seems to attack my body, and it takes me a couple of days to recover. So there's I like what Bo Levi says. So this group of players doesn't go out and party like the other ones may have done, and if the guys that done that are gone, so they've kind of addressed that. Chris Jones addressed that by going early, getting used to the time change and that stuff. So they still squeaked out a win. And as I mentioned to George on the way here, and I love this time of year when the Riders are winning and people are still complaining about the quality of the wins, how this happened. They're not doing this, not doing that. Basic bottom line is they're getting the 2 points, they're getting the wins. They're 10-5 and they're in control of their own destiny. And whether it's a beautiful Rembrandt or something that Rob might be able to put together, the music Rob listens to,
Hey,
it still counts, and they're still all at 10-5. You can't say much about it, really.
the offense is so boring, though.
Yeah, but kind of effective.
They're in the entertainment business, and their offense is boring.
Don't you find defense entertaining?
That's about all. I when the Riders play, when the offense is there, I on the field, I sit there and kind of okay, Trey Mason up the middle. When the defense is on the field, I get excited. It's like, what are they going to do now? If it isn't a defensive touchdown, it's a sack, it's energy, it's something that can create a vibe and a buzz. The defense is an amazing thing to watch. The offense seems to be just the filler before the defense can get on the field. The offense often doing its part to allow the defense to get on the field quite soon.
But think about last game, except for that unfortunate incomplete pass to Kenny Shaw. I remember I met Kenny 6 weeks ago. He came in with a number of the Riders, the Riders that just signed him. And here he is, just several weeks later, he's our number one option out there, or he was the one that Zach was going to.
I actually like him, even with that. Yeah. You can't call it a drop pass when his hands don't touch the football, but the headbutt. I actually like him.
Maybe it reminds that some of the receivers make it look so easy that it's not that easy to catch a football running full stride with a guy on your back. You're looking up, but at the same token, they get paid to catch the ball, and that was a pretty bad. But Zach also had that bad pick too.
Yeah, and it was, and but they bounced back, and again he came through to Kenny catch again, and and Jones has to come in, and he had a drop, but then he had
he made a great catch to move the chains.
Exactly. So but the thing about it is when you take a look at it and say, look at our receivers that we have out for Zach to throw it to, I bleed green, so
I'd see a doctor for that.
As long as you don't, as long as it's bleeding.
Or my green prism glasses. But I think if you look through the CFL and you look through right now, at the end of our game, who our receivers are on the field, we're not saying that they're, from experience point of view so far, that they would be one of the top receiving cores out there, and yet this team is 10-5, and the next 3 games are certainly going to show us. But I'm telling you, I don't think the Calgary Stampeders, if they have to face the Saskatchewan-Roughriders in the Western Final, are going to be saying, we got this. The Riders are going to be a very, very tough opponent, through these next 3 games and the playoffs. And that's really exciting. That's the difference between this year and last year. The home playoff game is everything. Last 30 years, we've only hosted 6. I look here, and there's my hero Ronnie, there's my hero George. We used to host semifinal games lots, and we've hosted final games a lot, but that was when the Eskimos were just, Tom Wilkinson and Bruce Lemmerman and all those, and we'd be so good, and we'd go into Edmonton and have battles and somehow just not squeak it, or in 76 finally get to host it here. I'd like to start that where this 7-1 and this 10-5, we make a run, a Calgary-like run. I'm sorry. Again,
that's the expectation.
That's the expectation.
That's why they hired Chris Jones.
Exactly. And whatever you may think, and whatever you might think of Coach Jones, and it was tough getting rid of some of our favorite players, but here it is, year 3 into the program. We're 10-5, and maybe the great oracle here, 13-5. And wouldn't that be a shame to go 13-5 and to be second? I mean, then we're going to talk about playoff realignment, and do these divisions mean anything, especially if we get balanced with Halifax coming in and we'll have 10 teams. But you know what? I'm not quite sure, Murray, that they're going to win 3 in a row, but I wouldn't be surprised if they win 2 out of those 3 games.
If you're right, though, Murray, and they do go 13-5, is the home playoff game we're discussing the West Division final and not the semifinal? Because one of those victories would have to be over Calgary.
And I can't remember the score of that game. Comes the points for and against thing again?
No, because it would be our third game.
They play 3 against
Calgary. Oh, that's
Calgary.
right. Sorry, yeah. I'm sorry.
So they win the season series against Calgary if they win the...
So they were 13-5.
Calgary would have to lose once
Calgary,
more.
I think Calgary has 4 games and the Riders have 3 games.
Yeah, because the Riders have the bye week.
Calgary plays BC in the home and home, plays us, and I believe they play Winnipeg too. So I think that's... I mean, it's feasible, because then basically Calgary would have to... If we run it and we beat Calgary, that means Calgary would have to win 2 out of the remaining 3 games to get to 14 wins.
Yeah, 14.
So, wow.
Yeah. And you know what? I have no qualms with going to Calgary for a division final.
Yeah.
How many times have we seen this?
Oh.
Yeah, that's true.
2010, 2013. I think this is a different Calgary team, though. Some of those previous Calgary teams get so high on themselves and just presume that the West Final was, a walk to the Grey Cup. Well, this team is not a typical Calgary team.
With the animosity against the Eskimos, I always like to think who's our arch rival. I mean, this Winnipeg game is coming up. You're going to see it in the Western Division. But I always remember loving talking with Mike McCullough, and Mike just said, not even close. It was always the battles against Calgary. And so it's going to be interesting, again, that we're going to have these games where the Riders are going to play the penalties certainly have to be addressed, because that was 10 penalties for 95 yards in the first half.
And a lot of cheap stuff.
And that's something that you didn't really see on this Chris Jones coach team, in terms of there was the undisciplined, like offsides and holding and inopportune times, but after the whistle gone, it seemed like it was a Jason Moss, right? That was the one thing I was looking on the sidelines. I was like, okay, when's Jason going to explode? And he didn't.
He should have. He should have on the Willie Jefferson touchdown. I think we can all look at the hit that Zach Evans got on Mike Riley that was challenged. He hit him in this helmet, hit him in the head. I think it should have been a penalty.
I watched that one over and over there, and I think the difference, the key there, I think so. You look at it. Yeah, okay. Was it conclusive? Was there an angle that showed, okay, flagrantly or just clearly that was a helmet to helmet? The angles weren't great, and I looked at it. Yeah, I think so. But yeah, I think so isn't. I don't think that's conclusive enough. But was that the difference? We don't know, but that's a great point you bring up. Because
imagine if that call had been overturned.
No. Imagine if that was.
Can you imagine the scene?
If that was on Zach Caleros and the seawall hit him, and that led to the Riders losing this. They wouldn't. The ref, Al wouldn't have gotten out of a mosaic. So
kudos to TSN because they had Zach Evans's reaction covered for that whole thing. And he said a bad word. I don't think he was saying "oh my" when they caught him. They went, "Oof!" What a sense of relief for him and for the whole stadium. It's just like because. It could best way we can describe it could have gone either way.
Yes.
And if it can go either way, I guess maybe the decision is you don't go either way.
Well, I was thinking about your beloved Pittsburgh Steelers on Sunday, and remember after the Immaculate Reception, there was some talk among the officials about, okay, was that a legal play? And one of the storylines there is, okay, if they wave off the Franco Harris touchdown, how are those officials going to get out of the stadium? And I was thinking about that during the interlude between the challenge flag and the review and the decision, and I thought, what kind of mob scene is this going to be if they wave off that touchdown?
And Zach Evans is one of the nicer guys in the league too, and you go like. But, interesting, I hate to interrupt you. That in the NFL, that's a penalty when he landed on him, though.
Oh, yeah, right now.
NFL, there's no doubt.
This last year with that rule change of body weight and everything,
Speaking of body weight, can we throw another negative one here? And I give Mike Riley credit for getting them back in position to almost win the game, knock down the ball. I don't know if everybody's seen everybody's All-American, all those, or All-American hero when Craig Nelson tells the player, just go for the ball, take the ball down. And he didn't, but they should have knocked the ball.
Just line up on the goal line.
Yeah.
Good luck. You can catch the ball if you want. Mike Rowdy threw that ball 55 yards past the line of scrimmage, 61 yards in the air, but he would have had to have thrown it 75 yards in the air for it to get to the goal line. So let him catch it.
And get him in front of you. But was that Gainey's biggest play of the year? Those 2 picks? That's a pretty big play for a smart guy to drop back and realize because that's what their minds are set for. They want picks.
Yeah.
That's an interception time, and you get a little fat in your stats.
And that pick that he made was a really great athletic play. The pick that Nick Marshall made. There's so much is made of the Willie Jefferson pick, but the 2 other interceptions were in Rider territory and within range for at least a field goal. So if they don't get those interceptions,
but that's what we're expecting on this defense. The sacks, I think a lot of times, the pass run option was C.J. Gable and Mike Riley. I mean, they didn't contain Mike. C.J. got some yards, but then when you take a look at the stats and you take a look at the flow of the game, again, they held him off. They didn't score a touchdown, this high-powered offense. And how many times have we said...
139 minutes for Mike Riley without a touchdown. My goodness.
And so that's something interesting because what happened against Winnipeg for them the last game. So, I know a lot of us, when they talk about the offense and they say, what about Bo or what about Mike Riley or even out east with Trevor Harris and you take a look at it and you go, well, there's examples of those teams that don't have the record that we have, and their offense doesn't do very well when they're playing a caliber defense like ours.
Yeah, people are slicing up Zach Caleros, but he had a better game than Mike Riley, and it wasn't close.
Exactly.
And a better game than Johnny Manziel, even though maybe...
Johnny Manziel.
and a better game.
So, guys, I got the question. You're the 2 learned guys in this room. MOP, it's on the defense. I'm beginning to lean that way heavily.
I'm starting to think Willie Jefferson.
The 2 touchdowns trump 15 sacks?
Don't say Trump.
Sorry. Trudeau?
Over
Trudeau?
outweigh.
No, Trudeau's it's not Trudeau, though. Yeah, sorry. So the 2 touchdowns beat 15 sacks?
Willie Jefferson is...
But he also has a touchdown, too. So.
He does.
That's Charleston Hughes, for those not quite catching on with us.
If you had your pick, if you're a GM and you had your pick of anybody on the Saskatchewan-Roughriders right now, if you could handpick one player If the Riders folded tomorrow and there was a dispersal draft, who'd be the number one pick? I'd pick Willie Jefferson, and it isn't close. With all due respect to Charleston Hughes, Willie Jefferson can blow up a football game and an opponent like nobody else.
So again, being learned, but I would really like to break down the game film and everything and to take a look at was it because Willie was getting all that attention early on and they maybe have to double team him, that Charleston was just getting more from the outside, just beating his tackle and being able to get into it. And then when Charleston was racking up all those sacks, more attention was paid to Charleston, and then that freed up Willie. From an athletic point of view and an athlete and everything, those 2 pick sixes just are amazing, to show.
His entire repertoire is amazing.
He's got pink gloves. Like, what was Mike Riley, other than he was probably thinking, here comes Zach Evans going to take my head off, which maybe was the pressure that did to that. But 2 big pink gloves, and he catches, and then he shows the smarts. Like the Winnipeg one was showboating. I think we can all, and it was fun.
And there was an element of that on.
But the same token, he should have kept the ball tucked in his arm.
Yeah.
But they got their hands are so big they can't.
But why is it so difficult to tuck away a football? You work so
because
hard.
You're so boring.
You work
Rob.
so hard to get a turnover. You work so hard to get a turnover, and then you're waving the football around.
But a pick six, this is like you said, when you show who's gotten 2 pick sixes in a season for the Riders, he's the first of all of our outstanding defensive linemen. I mean, they might all the defensive linemen legends out there for the Riders and maybe in the CFL are looking at this and going, I can't believe that this defensive end has 2 outstanding. How many total yards? 2? I mean, it's got to be
97 and 49.
Yeah. So we're not talking. We're not talking. But I mean, my glorious. Hang on for a second. My glorious Minnesota Vikings, and our Denver Broncos. Lindell Joseph. The other thing that we also have to take into account, and we're saying about MOP and everything is these guys are unbelievable athletes. Like Willie. He's amazing. Like Willie, I think Willie, you could put him in as a tight end package, right? Like and so when you take a look at that, but I'd like to take the MOP, divide it in half. Those two have been, like I said, they're for sure our 2 most outstanding players. They're the difference makers on this team, and. The nice thing that I like about it is when Charles got a sack, he was pointing to Willie because it was really Willie that pushed him right back into Charles. So,
there was one play. The Riders are rushing 3. Edmonton's got 5 blocking, and both Hughes and Jefferson got to the quarterback at the same 3 against 5, and they spun the offensive tackles around on both flanks. Like, it's amazing what these guys can do. It's just. I can't even think of words to. We've used so many words to try and describe what these defensive ends have done. It almost exhausts the vocabulary.
Has Brett Lowther dropped out of the talk for MOP then, with 2 misses from pretty long distance?
He's still on pace to set a Rider record for field goal accuracy, and that record is held by Hall of Famer Dave Ridgway. Mm-hmm. But I think it was a bit of a reach to pick a kicker anyway. I still think. When you look at the dynamism of these defensive players, the Riders' best defensive player's got to be their MOP. Does he not?
Easily, yeah. I'm thinking, but Brett Lowther, the 2 misses, which are almost shocking in the fact that he missed, but there were 2, one was it from 41 and 58, 52? No, 50 something.
The 50 was, he was short on the 50.
50, yeah. So,
but he had not missed from 41 or longer.
And think about that. He's had 2 misses, and he has to come in and kick a convert after a long challenge and a big play. That convert was pretty darn important too, and he kicked that. And
absolutely.
We kind of think now converts are easy peasy, but they aren't easy peasy anymore. And then he comes in with the
ask Mason Crosby.
Mason
Crosby, George.
Well, as
I lost fantasy points last week.
Hang on, as a Vikings fan, I will say that wow, craziness. But then all those examples of field goal kickers that got cut in the NFL because they cost their teams wins. We haven't experienced that at all. And our special teams have been outstanding. I'm trying to think, when's the last time we've given up a big return?
Early in the year, they were susceptible to it. Lately,
and let's
forget it.
You know what? And I know people are thinking, what is Josh doing sometimes with this? They're asking Josh to do his directional kicking. They're actually asking him to try and place it, yards and timing. And he's doing his job. He's putting it in the plate because obviously the net yards are what is so important. And there haven't been any huge returns against us. So, like I said, defense, what can we see? So great to see Moncrief out there.
Is he a player?
Is he a player? So fantastic. That Nick Marshall, I just watched it over and over again. What an athlete, what a play. And think about early on, this is my Duron Carter moment of bringing him his name, where we thought we had to play him on defense. Think of now who we're rotating out that can't even get on the field, that we wouldn't have any problem, having them as our extra defensive back. That's what's changed. We've just gotten players that we can, Moncrief, who had such a great training camp at the beginning of the year, got hurt, and I think it was a little bit difficult to get him back in the lineup because the defense was playing so well, and if we
Matt Dillon was playing nicely there before Moncrief came back.
Yeah, and so if we do have injuries, and like I said, even on the receiving core, isn't it nice? There was Kenny Shaw. No, come on now. But we picked up Kenny Shaw, and we're gonna. I'm hoping El Presidente comes back. I'm hoping Caleb comes back, and think about a year ago this time. The Riders had signed because Kevin Glenn said, my buddy Marcus Thigpen is, he's available, and think about what a real nice, change of pace back he is, and Trey's going to get those tough yards for us, play off the weather and everything. So I think that running game is going to be there. So I'm excited. I'm excited for these next 3 games. Saturday in Winnipeg. I got to tell you, the Blue Bombers are going to have a chip on their shoulder, and they're going to want to smash us to send a message that, yeah, you guys may host a home playoff game, and it might be us. I would have thought a few weeks ago for sure it was going to be Edmonton coming to play the Riders in that semifinal. But and the Riders are just going to go in there, take care of business. And Willie's going to get another touchdown.
That's a good prediction. Yeah.
And it's going to be great to sweep the Bombers and add to their misery. Not saying, I know that your Jets are.
As long as the Jets win.
As long as the Jets. Well, speaking of NHL, let me
what
just
have you done?
Let me just put my
the walking exhibit.
How about that Austin Matthews and John Tavares?
That's amazing.
I think we're going to block that out. I think just sort of. Yeah. I forgot I left my Golden Knights hat in the office, so we haven't started off as strong as we did last year. But
then that's the example, at the beginning of the year, when Ottawa and Montreal, that they were playing tough. I think Vegas has certainly shown to all the teams that you don't need all the greatest talent. You can compete and you can go very far. So it's going to be interesting. What a great time of the year. That's what I've always been saying.
Everything.
This is from the Riders doing so well to the NFL. Think about Kansas City going into New England. Mahomes, what he's doing as a young quarterback, and I just love all the talk of everybody trying to rank and say, oh, this guy is better than this guy, and I don't know. I'm just enjoying it, and baseball is now getting down to some unbelievable championship series now. It's just a fall. As long as the snow stays away, best time of the year, that's for sure.
And don't forget the Rams on Friday night.
Absolutely.
Maybe we should touch on that topic. Okay, they dressed an ineligible player. It was an inadvertent, honest, human mistake that was not involving a player who had a significant impact on the team, and they have their 3 victories expunged from the record. There should have been some sort of discipline, but you're killing a mosquito with a flamethrower by stripping a team of 3 victories for that, are you not?
It does seem rather heavy-handed, but you know something? The rules are the rules, and it's one of these rules that's pretty well cut and dry in black and white. If he doesn't have whatever the reason was, he didn't have to be eligible. He didn't have them. So
they're home on Friday to Alberta.
Somebody messed up.
I hope people go and show these kids a lot of love and a lot of support, because that's a kick in the teeth unlike I've ever seen a non-Rough Rider local sports franchise absorb.
Yeah. You know, think about that. These student athletes have been training. Remember, Canada West is 8 games. You know, we're not talking that you got 18 games and you can turn your season around. And for a young, great quarterback, Picton, to think about, I would hope that he gets an opportunity in the CFL later, but this might be his, he came back. So I'm hoping that I've heard some rumblings that that there might be a small hope that this might get overturned. But I'm sure the team can't. The team's got to go out and win these next 3 games. So, and let's start Friday against Alberta. And the Rams certainly need everybody's support. That's for sure, to show them that we're behind them and that they can do this.
Great. Well, I think this is the longest one we've ever had. So
it is long.
Anybody who's made it to the end with us, we thank you for your generous allocation of time. George Anistos, thank you again.
Oh, absolutely.
For being with us.
And then we won't have it on camera, but I got breakfast sandwiches because Murray, and food.
You brought 3 for Murray?
Not 3 for Murray. Come on now.
Murray, thanks as always.
Sure, I'm looking forward to it. Thanks. George's got great food, breakfast sandwiches.
There'll be Murray's teeth marks on the styrofoam very shortly.
Yeah.
George, Murray, I'm me. Thanks for being with us, and we'll do this again next week once we've
Don't forget, you want me to read it this time?
Murray, you're going to read this one.
Hi, I'm going to read this because Rob forgot. So I'm going to use my best Murray McCormick voice. Please rate us on iTunes and leave a review. It really helps us grow the podcast, because everything's about growing the podcast.
We're going to grow in other ways. George,
Exactly.
Murray, me. Thanks so much. Take care.